guys, and welcome back to Lead Farmers Tactical. On this particular episode, we're going to be building this rifle here for my buddy Greg. Greg's one of my friends I work with, and we go shooting. And you guys know my background, military, living in the South, growing up shooting. But Greg, what is all your background with shooting?
I kind of grew up just kind of on the edge of Tulsa, so kind of a little bit in the country, a little bit of shooting out in pastures, and just kind of a little bit out on some ranches and farms with some family members. But fortunately, I live in the city and really don't get a chance to go out much, but trying to make some excuses now.
Making the excuses. All right. And you're married with a recent kid here.
Yes, I am.
Congratulations, even though it's... How old's your kid now?
I just turned a year.
Oh, man.
Time flies.
Have you slept yet?
Nope.
Oh, yeah, didn't figure so. So, what we're going to be building for him is this Savage Mk2. It's just a 22, and it's got the Savage Mk2 trigger, and we're going to be restocking it. We're going to be putting some glass on here, and he's already got it set up for a suppressor, and he's running the Spectre Spectre 2 from Silencer Co. So let's go ahead and pull this out, and you can tell me a little bit about why you picked the Spectre 2 as opposed to anything else you were looking at. Well, what else were you looking at to begin with?
I was kind of looking for a suppressor that was something I can kind of bounce between a couple of different firearms I have. I have a Walther P22 and it threads right on quite easily, so wanted to be able to have it user serviceable so I can take it apart, break down the baffles on the inside. It's Magnum rated, so you can shoot 22 HMR, or 22 Magnum, 17 HMR, kind of an all-purpose can, so should be a lot of fun to put on a rifle with subsonic ammo. It makes it pretty quiet.
So your biggest draw to that was the user serviceability and the versatility of it?
Absolutely. Price range wasn't too bad on it. It's pretty comparable to the others in that category, and all in all, it's a pretty durable can, and I've played with it a couple times on some other firearms, so
awesome.
Pretty happy with it so far.
So we're building a suppressed bolt action 22, and what was your idea behind building this rifle that you told me about?
I wanted to go bolt action on this so I can have the ability to have this as a kind of a trainer for my 308 setup that I have. I currently have a Remington 700 308 that's set up to be a long-range shooter, got decent glass, decent stock on it, and kind of wanted the same thing here to just be able to shoot a little bit cheaper. We just work on some skill sets and develop my just shooting positions and kind of just get better without wasting the big rounds every time.
Yeah, you've been moving from more of a hunting and plinking to wanting to learn a little bit about the precision shooting world, right?
Sure have, yeah. Kind of starting to do some reloading here hopefully soon, and starting to get into some round development and really kind of want to take it seriously and kind of step up my game a little bit.
Cool. So Greg has brought his Mk2 over here because he was wanting to take it more from this fairly basic Savage platform to something that's slightly upgraded, feels a little more like the 308 that he has, that has a Bell & Carlson stock on it, more of those Target tactical style stocks. Put some glass on it and get it ready for being a good precision trainer. So what we're working with is he's got a Boyd's Tactical. I assume this is straight fiberglass wood stock, right?
Oh yeah, just their wood stock. Yeah.
Okay, it's just wood. Okay, so it's a wood stock. He's got a bag hook. It's more of that tactical with the palm swell style, so it's a good target shooter from prone or from a bench rest. A little bit of a cheek riser here. Really good recoil pad for something that's going on at 22. How much did this run you think?
The entire kit with the bottom metal that it came with was right under $200.
So it was right under $200 for the stock. What's probably the base price on the rifle that you got here?
Just about $200 with that. I think it was $189 plus tax.
Okay, so a little under $200 for the rifle, about $200 for the stock. Suppressor we know is probably what was it, about $500-600?
About $500-600 with paperwork and everything.
With the tax stamp done?
With the tax stamp.
Okay. He also picked up a BSA mil dot reticle This is a 4x14 first focal plane, right?
Yes.
And then it is 10th mil adjustments with a 10th mil or a mil dot reticle, right?
Correct.
Awesome.
Wanted to have something that wasn't MOA, something very similar to the 308 setup that I have, which should do the trick.
Let's pull this out here real quick and we'll take a quick look at it. So one of the things that we're going to do today is we're actually going to mount his rings, and we're going to go through and show you how to lap the rings and then level the scope out for a precision rifle, which is going to be a little more basic because we're doing it on 22, but this is his scope. And for a BSA, even though this was not one of the things I was really highly recommending, the clicks are really positive. You can hear the clicks really well. They're tactile. You can feel the click through the turrets. Same thing with the side clicks. I mean, they're a little mushy, but it is a BSA scope. You're also not pushing this out to 1,000 yards. And it's not something that if you miss a little bit, you're going to be wasting big rounds. It's just a trainer, like you said, right?
Right.
So, the focal point, the only thing that seems to be a little stiff is probably the adjustment ring's not too bad for the power. Overall, it doesn't feel like a bad scope for something that's going on 22. Comes with a sunshade, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, nothing else. It'll look cool. We'll see what goes on. He's got a Caldwell XLA bipod 9-13 model with the pivot, which the pivot's always what I recommend for like a tactical precision shooter. And then we got some Weaver black matte tactical rings, 6 stud per ring, which is way more than we need for this rifle, but we're going to end up mounting that all up and leveling it out and getting him rocking and rolling. So we can probably go ahead and get started and strip this thing. Let's go ahead and flip it over so it's clear here. And shut that up. Let's flip it over, and we need some.
Got you all right here.
Oh yeah. Oh, there we go. Now this stock came with a replacement bottom metal as well as a new metal trigger guard piece. So I mean, we're well overbuilt for what we're going to need for a 22. By the way, how much was the scope and the rings for it?
The rings were about $40. The scope was right at $249.99.
Okay, so you're in for a little under $1,000 suppressor and all, right?
A little bit over $1,000 with the suppressor, but yeah.
Okay.
But there's multiple uses.
This out of here. Let's go and remove the bottom metal lower right here. Alright, so there's the old stock off. And this was just like an ABS plastic molded, and just then I'm guessing like a thin piece of steel for the bottom metal.
Right.
So I mean, not actually a bad stock. Doesn't look warped or anything, but I mean it's on 22, so there's not a whole lot I would be expecting to be problematic with this. But that new stock should be a lot more comfortable and give you a lot more of the feel that you're looking for. Alright, so let's go ahead and grab the action here. Let's get this set up and see if we can drop it in. This is pretty much a drop-in affair. If he really wanted to, come back and glass bed this. But again, we're working on a 22. So glass bedding probably not something that you absolutely have to have here. So with the stock, they gave him some hardware. He's got a couple of screws for the new bottom metal, and then a couple of screws for the, or a couple of screws for the bottom metal, and then these are screws for the actual trigger guard. I'll tell you what we'll actually do. We'll actually pull the action out of here, and we'll prep the bowl or the stock here first with this bottom metal.
You notice a difference in that bottom metal thickness.
Oh yeah. It's also weird, this one's a little bit curved. This one is completely flat. Yeah, probably about 1/8 of an inch in what you're working with, and this one definitely feels like steel. This one actually feels like it might be aluminum, which is a thing. Alright, let's see. And they give you this little super tiny bag for a couple of screws. So what made you go with a Boyd stock over, one of the other brands out there?
Just ease of ordering it. Their website's very friendly. Just kind of pick your model, pick your gun. Just had to measure the action just to make sure I had the right year model for this particular stock, and it's very easy to do. I got the kit that had this bottom metal included with it, which is normally a little bit more on this if you purchase it separately. So pretty fast, quick, and easy shipping.
Awesome. So with the Savage Mk2, what weird little nuances did you run into with buying? Like you were talking about year model. Was there a particular year model like weird thing about it?
I think it's the Savage 93. I think there's an E model that where the action actually is like a 1/2 inch longer, shorter, little small variances. So the screw spacing is a little bit different, I believe. So this one was just kind of the newer version, so really didn't have any issues with it at all. Just matched it up, ran a tape measure on my action, and matched right up.
Alright. And it looks like you also have a set screw that comes in this trigger guard here for setting up if you want to set a backstop on it.
Right.
So it gives you an additional trigger adjustment spot, which is pretty cool. Let's see if we can get this thing flipped over. Just get it dropped in. Alright. I have to run it up a little bit forward so we got something to brace it on. And it looks like, yeah. I don't know where they were planning on you screwing this through.
I believe that's the back screw. You've got the longer one here.
Oh, this is for, okay, that other screw is for the actual trigger guard. I got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
That is one thing. The factory screws will not work. You do have to upgrade the screws with their kit. They are a little bit longer tolerance.
It actually looks like they might be a little bit beefier too, though, which is not. That's. And go and run that down into the action. Alright, so now that we've got them all run down, we'll just go ahead and put light amounts of torque to it. Unlike your big precision rifles, this isn't something we're going to have to torque it to like 30 or 40 foot-pounds. This is just going to be torque it until everything's good and snug. And with it being a wood stock, the action should actually kind of press its own imprint into the stock, which will serve a little bit of the bedding. But we're not looking for like a complete perfect seal. If you wanted to do that, you'd have to go with a glass bedding. But again, on a 22, probably not entirely necessary. Probably more money than you really want to spend unless you're doing some major competition and Olympic grade stuff.
Right.
Alright, so we got this torque down to probably about 20 foot-pounds, I'd say. Just on hand tightening. And we'll make sure the rest of the bottom metal is tightened down here too. Which this screw is just in wood, so I would not recommend over tightening that at all unless you really want to strip it out. So, just in that, and it looks like a whole new rifle. It's going to be a much more comfortable shooter and a lot easier to get a proper precision grip on it and pull it straight back instead of trying to wrap your hand over the top and get a real awkward angle, which also helps with your trigger control. As you can see on this one, you have the Accu trigger. It's a love it hate it thing. Me personally, I don't like Accu triggers. I don't like having that blade there. I like to be able to get my finger contact and, you know, on the first try, not, oh, well, that didn't hit right, let me move it over, slide it around until I find my pad. I like to just get it on the first time. How do you like the Accu trigger?
Kind of the same thing. I think it's really more of a hunting thing. So from the target standpoint, it's not my favorite, but it's what's available with this one. So I might switch that out later.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that is something that's always available. You know what? Actually, we're gonna go ahead and let's go into the rings. All right. So we're gonna take these big, huge bolt weaver rings. I don't believe that they have a front or a back predetermined on them. Yep, doesn't look like there's a front or a back.
See that? I can start taking them down for you. I got the screws in there.
And I don't think that bolt clearance is going to be a problem. So do you have a preference on which direction you'd like the knobs to face? Or does it matter?
Doesn't really matter.
Does that matter to you? Okay.
Right, if anything, maybe.
Let's kind of get these situated. And yep. Strip all the screws out of here. We'll probably edit this for time. There we go. Add some Benny Hill music to the background. Oh man. Did you need 6? Does that just make you feel good?
Yeah, that scope's not moving.
If it was before, it ain't now. Hey look, more screws. Jesus Christ.
I'm telling you, man. It's tactical.
I see that. Don't try this at home, kids. It's tactical. Okay, so step 1 of seating the rings, or getting the rings set up. We're gonna get this set in here. Let's actually do this. This will make it a little bit easier. Alright guys, so if you haven't ever set up a scope for precision shooting, it's going to be 2 parts, you know, mechanics, and then 1 part shoe fitting. You're going to make sure that this rifle fits you and your eye relief and where you like to shoot from. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to attach the bipod here. Screw it all up. Make sure we got everything done. And what I'm going to have you do, Greg, make sure this is all pinched down. I want you to get a good grip and get your natural shooting position where you shoot from, and I want you to slide that scope back and forth until you find your eye relief with where you're at. And okay, so that's that about where you want it?
I think so. That's about perfect right there.
Right there? Okay, excellent. So one of the good things about this is based on where he wants his scope at, we can actually move the front ring forward a little bit more, because for the sake of recoil on a bigger rifle, not necessarily on this thing, you want to get your bases as far apart on the scope as you can, and that helps with making sure everything's perfectly aligned, and also keeps anything from flexing or wobbling or contorting. So the wider the base, the better off you are. If you have a real narrow base, especially on high-powered rifles, it can cause problems. So we're going to take this and we're going to move it. Bam. And that was about where you wanted it.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so since we don't want to be doing this multiple times, go ahead and check it one more time. Since it's all the way up on the objective bell here, that is going to support that scope the best.
Looks perfect to me.
Awesome. Alright, so now that we got the scope in here, or we've got the ring set where we want them, we're going to remove the scope. We're going to make sure everything here is fully tightened down, because we don't want it flexing and moving while we're doing what we're going to do next. Yep. And one of the specialized tools that you may need for seating a scope is going to be some type of scope system. This is the Wheeler Engineering. This is actually a complete kit, so it's got everything for leveling as well as lapping the rings and mounting. Probably the only thing in here that you need more than anything is going to be one of these, the Wheeler Fat Wrench. This is like the most useful tool I have in my gunsmithing collection, because it is a foot-pounds Torx wrench for basically screwdrivers and stuff.
Yes.
Have you ever seen one of these or had one of these?
I do not.
Yeah, they're pretty useful. You pull it out, you twist it, and it will, let's see, there we go. And you can basically turn up your inch-pounds through the range, all the way up to, I think it's a 65 inch-pound,
Nice.
which is, and then if you get it up high enough, if you get it to like, let's say 10, and let's say we want to mount these rings to 10, which is obviously a lot less than what we probably got them tightened to. Put it in here, twist it, oh no. So at 10 inch-pounds, it'll break over.
Yes.
So actually, let's see if we got this one tightened to 10 inch-pounds. There we go. So now, alright, now I'm guessing we're probably not going to do any thread locker on your rings or anything. You don't want to do that. And we're working with a 30. So this was a 30 scope. Yep, there we go. So 30 millimeter scope ring. And again, these are not stuff, this is not stuff that you absolutely need, but it's kind of useful. So this helps you make sure that your, no, that's not the right size. That's why that happened. So these are machined to exactly the 30 millimeters that we're doing here, and these let you know how well aligned your scope rings are. So if you have them ones that can possibly be off kilter, if your base is messed up and not exactly straight, then these little tips wouldn't perfectly line, but as you can see here, they line up just right, so we know that we've got our scope rings perfectly in line and everything's going straight down the barrel. And then part 2, we're going to be lapping the rings here. And so we have like a 220 grit lapping compound, and this is our lap bar. So what we're going to end up doing, I almost spilled my scotch. That would have been good. So this is a pretty easy process. You just don't want to try and rush it too much. What we're basically going to do is take a little bit of this lapping compound here, which is just the same as abrasive compound you get at Home Depot or anywhere. We're going to spread it real thin inside the scope rings. Again, this is probably slightly unnecessary at the caliber that we're working with, but it's not going to hurt anything to do everything a little bit better than, So once we get this in here, get that off my finger, we're going to set this lap bar in here, make sure everything's cleaned off of it. And then we're just going to basically let the lap bar, because it's pretty heavy, way down in there. And we're just going to start working it back and forth, from side to side. And what this is going to do is even out the whole inside of your scope ring base, so it gets an even grip across the tube of the scope. Keeps it from settling or doing anything else with you, or possibly moving around. And the bigger rifles, it definitely helps with the friction force imparted on the scope during heavy recoil. So these were steel rings, right? Let's see. Do you remember what your base was made out of?
I matched them up at the time.
Okay, so you did match them. That was another thing we were going to talk about. If you're going to do a precision rifle or any type of rifle, guys, definitely make sure you match the base material to the ring material. If you got aluminum base, I definitely recommend getting aluminum rings. If you have a steel base, get steel rings. Otherwise, if you mismatch them, you run into, in hot or cold weather, a difference in the expansion and contraction of these two metals. And it can cause your scope to be just tilted off under certain circumstances, or it could cause damage to either your rings or your base, because steel and aluminum are going to expand and contract at different rates and to different degrees, which is going to cause one of them to expand more, one of them to expand less, contract more, contract less, and you're going to end up buggering something up. Alright guys, so we got it lapped out. It's showing steel all along here, so we've lapped it down to level. We're going to go ahead and clean out all the lapping compound, which is really important because you don't want that abrasiveness on your scope body. Clean that up and get it set back over here. You really want to make sure that whatever part of the rag you're using, when you finish wiping it up, you're not getting any more gray, or whatever color your lapping compound may be. You can go to Home Depot and you can get lapping compounds that are like the iron oxide base, right. And so they're kind of red. And I think you can get them down to 220 grit. They're coming out clean. There we go. So we got it good and clean. Scope's going to settle right there. We'll make sure that we're not pressed up against any of the adjustments. And then, with this particular kit, what we have here is a magnetic level. We're going to slide up in here and see if we can push it right up to the scope base. Get it lined up with the scope base. And then this one sits right on top. Oh, we got it buttoned down. So we're going to turn it till the rifle's level. And then lock it down. Then we're basically just going to make the bubbles match top to bottom. And that looks pretty good. Both a little closer to the edge, but I like to line them up on the edge rather than trying to line up the spacing in the middle here. Because if you line up the spacing, you can be a little off and it's harder to tell than if you put both those bubbles right up against the line. So we got them right up against the right side lines here. Okay. Does that look good and level to you?
It's good and level to me.
There we go. Then we're going to have to double check the level once we get the rings bolted down. And we get that. So what we're going to do is we're going to just drop in a couple of screws a piece. And on a big rifle we would normally go in and do some blue Loctite. With something of this size, we're just going to screw them down, put a light amount of torque to them, and call it a day. That way if he wants to come back and adjust any afterwards, adjust the scope relief or anything, it's not a big hassle. Get that one kind of started. Get that one kind of started. And it should keep things from moving around too much, and then we'll go ahead and throw in a couple in the front, and then we'll run down the rest of them. Yeah, this is probably something that we can skip over too much of. Probably the most important thing here is making sure that we just tighten all these down evenly across the rings. We don't want to run anything in too deep on its own. That's what she said. Yeah, we did that.
Yeah.
So we don't want to run one screw all the way down and then come back and try and do the rest of them, because that's going to cause things to be cocked sideways. So this is probably a little bit slower process than most of what we've been doing, but it's well worth it to take your time and go slow. And that's what she said next.
That's what she said. Yeah.
Alright. And when it comes to these rings, I mean, usually you're going to only have 4 bolts per, and you're going to go in kind of a X pattern. With the 6, you're going to do an X pattern, then come back and do your 2 middles, and you're going to repeat that over and over. So we're going to go basically from here to here. So we've got this X pattern going on. Pull them down until we feel it hit. Yep. And then we're going to come to the middle, across, run that one down until we feel it hit. So what's going to happen, let's say your bubble gets off on your scope while you're doing this. You don't have to pull everything back apart and start screwing with it. What you can do is, if your bubble is pushed to this end, you can come over here and screw down on this side a little bit more, and it'll tilt the rifle back, or I'm sorry, you can screw down on this side a little bit more, and it'll tilt the scope over towards where the bubble's going, and it'll push it back the other direction. So you can level it in the base by just how you're going to go around and tighten everything. So we've got that one lightly torqued. Let's go here. And you're probably going to see your bubbles start to run a little bit more as you actually start tightening things down. But you shouldn't have too much of a problem if you're going and you're just doing small adjustments at every screw that you got here. And as you guys maybe will see, I'm doing my star pattern here, skipping to the front, doing the star pattern here, and then middle from front to middle to the back, keeping all the torque even across the scope. Alright, let's actually swap this up now. And we'll jump to the Wheeler fat wrench. And we're going to very lightly start off. We're going to start off at about 10 foot-pounds and start torquing things down. Looks pretty solid. We'll just do a quick discount double check here. So we can lay it up here on the, apparently it's not. Looks like you're pretty good. So here comes the real technical part of it. You gotta eyeball it. Alright. Pull that off. Take your rifle. See if you have a good level reticle. If you can find a straight line on that wall or something that you can level it up against, that'll probably help. Usually like, well, that bookshelf's a little canted, but maybe one of those straight lines on that. And see if it looks like it's off.
A little close in here.
Oh, I mean, aim through the hallway if you need to.
There we go. I guess it's right on that line.
Yeah, looks straight. All right. So, we have effectively taken a 22 hunting rifle, which is the intended purpose behind this, I guess, as a 22 like varmint hunter or small game hunter. And we've turned it into more of like a bench rest setup that is also pre-threaded. And you know we gotta do this at least once in this video.
Yeah, once. Piece de resistance.
Yep. Pre-threaded and fitted for quietly shooting in your garage, apparently.
It's the Urban Animal Assault Rifle.
The Urban Animal Assault Rifle. Alright. So it's a direct thread suppressor. And now, he's got a pretty decent little suppressed target rifle with a couple of magazines here. And I would say this thing is fairly solid. And do a quick check, make sure nothing feels loose or rickety at all. Now you guys already saw it's empty, so we are not going to put a magazine in here. However, what we are going to do is a quick functions check. So rack the bolt. Let me go ahead and point this in a safe direction. Fires. Doesn't fire again. Hold the trigger down. Fill a reset in there. And then the second fire, it worked. Alright, so everything's squared up and working correctly. Bipod's mounted, we could probably, there we go, tighten that down a little bit. And now guys, let me go ahead and set that over here in front of him. As you can see, he's added a swiveling bipod. It's got an adjustment back here where you can tighten it down, add some friction so it doesn't swivel as well. And it's got extendable legs. He's got this nice target grip, stock, a bag hook on it here. Metal trigger guard, as opposed to plastic one-piece molded. It's got detachable magazines. And how long is the biggest one?
It's 10 round and a 5 round.
That's a 10 round and 5 round.
I believe that's the biggest they make for those. So.
Right on. And you got a decent little piece of glass on it.
Yeah.
So anything before we sign off that you want to say, or any comments about it, questions?
No, like I said, about $800 or so I think in the rifle itself, short of the suppressor. All in all, I think it should be a pretty good little target rifle. Definitely should get some attention. It's probably quieter than an airsoft rifle. So
yeah, should be a fun little gun to shoot. And you got the subsonic ammo over here somewhere, don't we?
Yeah, in that suppressor box, I believe.
Oh, let's see.
I've run a couple of CCI quiets through my P22 with it, and the action is about the loudest part you hear. So.
Yeah, you've already started irritating your wife, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Alright, so what he's running, just as a little side note, he's got the CCI 22 long rifle quiet 22 is what they're called. So these are a 710 foot per second round, so obviously subsonic. And I want to say that they're coming in at what, 40 grain? Yep, 40 grain.
40 grain.
Yep, 40 grain is usually about the subsonic loading for a 22. And I mean, it looks just like a 22. You never tell the difference in the grain weight unless you have it written on the box usually. But like I said, I just know 40 is usually where they go subsonic with a 22. Got a few of them. Looks like you've already spent a few.
Sure have.
Quietly.
Quietly.
Alright. So, we got his rifle all put together. A little over $1,000 project all in all for a really good training rifle and something that you could plink and also probably get rid of varmints in a semi-rural environment where you're close to your neighbors and not irritate anybody or no noise pollution. Looks like a good rifle, man. I appreciate you bringing it by and letting me work on it for you. So guys, this is Josh with Lead Farmers Tactical. I appreciate you watching and sticking around. We got almost 25,000 views on the website, on the YouTube. And I think we just broke 160 subscribers not too long ago.
Nice.
So thanks for all the love and support. You guys feel free to go subscribe if you haven't already. Check us out on the Facebook page. It's facebook.com/Lead Farmers Tactical. And any comments, complaints, props, anything you want to throw on there, let us know. And we'll try and reply to you as soon as possible. So again, guys, thanks for all the support. I never thought we'd get to 25,000 views, but we are like knocking on that door. It's really, it's humbling for me, so I appreciate it. And remember guys, knowing is half the battle, the other half is violence.
Shut up and sit down. Shut up and sit down.